Welcome to this month's new version of my photographic notes. So after a few requests relating to my previous videos about my photographic selections, I've decided to separate what I consider more traditional photography using standalone cameras, either digital or analog using film, and computational photography using iPhones and my own software, photographic software and algorithms. It will make for shorter videos, and I might be able to discuss maybe more the details of how digital image and this really specific characteristics of the digital image come into play in my photographic work. In French, I named that matière numérique, which is digital matter, because it's, there's some fundamental differences between digital treatment of the image and when you develop your own algorithms, and analog matter. In those first two pictures, so basically when I develop my apps, in that case it's Camare Creative Camera. I've already said that in previous videos, but I only develop on iOS for now, so for iPhones. I developed those apps for my own photographic practice, so maybe hopefully one day I'll be able to do it for Android. I've had some requests, but for now I'm focusing on that platform. So Camare is usually my app of choice to develop new algorithms and to test them. So for those who know my work, I really like portrait modes. The aspect ratio 1/2 I find really interesting. And the left photo is me taking a picture trying to see if I can do something that's meaningful. And in that case, I think it's the semi-filter and some kind of film simulation overlay. Trying to see if those algorithms are meaningful, trying to understand how I could maybe develop new algorithms means experimenting more with the tools I've already developed. On the right, it's talking about the digital matter. That's actually a photo taken with Camare of my screen on an old Mac I have. Sometimes, because it has multiple screens, sometimes the graphic card sort of goes crazy and goes wild. And that's I believe, a good way of showing digital matter in respect to how image is used with computational devices like a computer, like even a standalone camera will do it. But here I do control the algorithms. Or in that case, I don't control the graphic card going crazy. But yeah, digital matter can be really, when it goes random or gets complicated, it's going to give you really different things than with a chemical process or a more optically controlled process. Again, using Camare, there's an experimental editor inside. So once you capture an image, you can basically work with the raw matter. And that's 3 different ways. Using that editor, I've tried to express that capture. So on the left, it's with the RDR insaturator. In the middle, it's probably the MOOP insaturator, I'm not sure. And on the right, it's a BEWI insaturator. They all have a film simulation overlay, which is probably the same. Probably what I name a CADO C200, I guess, filmulator. But it gives you a good idea, I guess, on how even so the original scene is the same. The original image capture is the same. Using those filters, using those algorithms, you don't get the same story, the same feeling. It's not the same expressivity. So yeah, just an example. Again, I really practice thoroughly the algorithms I do. And when they make sense, I release them. It's also a good way to share and go beyond and sort of, let the baby grow up by itself. Here again, walking around using a rather older insaturator, which is arguable, which kind of desynchronizes the basic color channels. Using it there's a new neighborhood in the city of Geneva, which is named Praille Acacia Vernet, PAV, and they've built those really tall buildings in a modern contemporary architecture. So it seemed to be the perfect scene to experiment with that insaturator and see if I could get what I expected. And yeah, that's experimental. I'm not sure it's a super incredible work of art, but I kind of liked what came out of it. So that was with a 65 millimeter lens of an iPhone 12 Pro Max, and probably, actually, I'm sure it's the latest film simulation I've done for Camare. So I was testing at the same time, see if it was working as expected. Then again, those two photos, that's wanted to show you maybe that's the early mid-process of the development of a new insaturator. I had that idea in the back of my head and started coding it. And once I have a first version that seems rather stable, I'll go and test it outside, do some street photography. And that's the MatNum insaturator, which is currently included in the Camare app, the Vika virtual camera simulator, and the DarkCam app. So those were the early phases. I wanted to see if my concept made aesthetically sense. I kind of started liking it, felt there were a few details lacking, so it's more of a trial and error kind of process. And here on the left side, those two pictures show the really early stages of the development, where at first in that MatNum insaturator development, I was trying to subdivide the image, the captured image, trying my code, see if it was optimal for that part. And so the early stages, usually there are photographs of the place where I'm coding. And in that case, I kind of find it funny. It's in my kitchen. So the left photo is water boiling because we do need to eat once in a while, and I had to eat while coding. And on the right, that's probably when I was integrating the MatNum insaturator into the Vika app, because I usually develop for Camare first and then include the modules into my other apps that sort of work with the same image engine. And in that case, the photo is not MatNum in the case of the right picture. But I was probably testing the randomizer in the Vika app to see if MatNum didn't crash the whole thing. The process of developing new algorithms in my process is not really trying to recreate the analog world. I'm an experimental photographer. I like new matters, and I'm really focusing on the digital matter of things. The matière numérique is the specific characteristics of light once it has been transformed into numbers. But I don't want to overly show it like we could, like in science fiction. That's not my goal. My goal is really to try to find the meat in those numbers and really shows them in a sensual way. Might work, might not work. That's not my point right now. But I extensively use my algorithms before releasing them. And that's again experimenting with MatNum. Once I've tried in my kitchen, I felt it went right. Once I've tried in the streets and felt right. Here I've tried in underground parking because the lights were neon lights, and it's a whole different kind of environment, and tried to see if it worked with multi-exposition. The Camare app has in its post-processing editor a small module that lets you manage multi-exposition at the capture time. So yeah, trying with using this multi-exposition mode, to see if it was working too. And yeah. And that's actually my 2 last images for this video. So yeah, a rather short presentation. I believe it might be more interesting if I subdivide the previous photographic notes, going on into those 2 different modules. So every month, as usual, you'll have the traditional photographic notes, and every mid-month you'll have the computational photography video. So hopefully you found that enjoyable. I'll continue my discourse on digital matter in the future. And don't hesitate to post comments or questions below. See you next time.